Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Zena, my AI colleague, where Zena and I explore several aspects of human AI collaboration. I'm your host, David Espindola. Our guest today is Loic Potjes. Loic is a seasoned executive coach who has empowered scale-up CEOs to make high-impact decisions for rapid growth. He has a great background as a scale-up CEO, tech investor, and he was also the managing partner of an exponential innovation consultancy. Loic brings a unique blend of practical experience in go-to-market strategies, mergers and acquisitions, and scaling disruptive business models. Hi, Loic. Welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to our conversation.
Very good. So also joining us today, we have Zena. Zena is my co-host. She is an AI that's been trained on my work. And if you'd like to further interact with Zena, you can go to brainius.com/Zena. Hi, Zena. Welcome back to another episode of our podcast. Please say hello to Loic, our guest today.
Hi, Loic. It's great to have you with us. I'm really looking forward to hearing how you're integrating AI into your coaching. Let's dive in.
As Zena alluded to, today we're going to be talking to Loic about his executive coaching practice and how he is leveraging AI to help him with that practice. But before we do that, I'd like to have Loic share a little bit about his career and his journey with us. So, Loic, tell us about your background.
So my background, I come from Brussels, Belgium, studied business, started a couple of years in emerging markets as a finance manager. I then worked for multinationals. At 26, I was thrown at a deep end to manage a 600 employee as a first management job. At 31, I had a little bit oversold myself, and that was my first corporate CEO job as an expatriate to start up a emerging markets division. At 40, I had done a couple of business model evolutions and learned a lot, and through being on the coalface with a few battle scars, I then wanted to do a bit more entrepreneurial work and did exponential advisory based on practical experience and what not to do and sometimes what to do. Then invested in tech with investment backed, ran a SaaS scale-up, boards, and for the last couple of years, I focused my work on being a sparring partner for CEOs. I would say largely around $100 to $400 million revenue globally in 25 countries, looking for clinical decisions, velocity, trade-offs, 80/20s, and all of that. And I'm married, 2 teenagers, and we live in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Excellent. That is such a rich background. I'm sure you've seen a lot of different things over the years. And I'd like to ask you about, from your experience, from everything that you've been through, what do you see as the most overlooked skill in executive leadership? And what's some of the essential skills that CEOs must have to scale effectively?
It's the art of taking elevation, taking a step aside from the 80 hours a week and think on the business. Remove bias from investors, from boards, from exec teams, from optimization of current trajectories before they lock hard. And it's that connection internally to the weak signals, telling them at times there's something off. We've promised the market to grow here and there, but something's changed. Be it AI, talking about AI evolution, be it geopolitics, be it markets changes. And so naming what's truly early, the naming too late is when they've hit a wall and then, it's not without damage, but the naming early then the assessing the breadth of impact of that, and then reassessing what needs to change, and then realigning rapidly stakeholders, again, investors, boards, exec teams. Another one that comes to mind is change of cycle. We're such a great team, and we don't overthink that for the next, the team remains the same for the next cycle. Leadership needs to be reevaluated early and not too late. Yeah, that's a couple of thoughts off the cuff. There's probably a good handful of them that would be what I'd call the 80-20s, but these are two examples.
So it sounds like a lot of what you are describing as essential skills for CEOs and for high-level executives line up with human intuition. So you have to have that experience, that intuition to be able to make those calls and know when it's time to name the problem and when it's time to engage the leadership team. And in this new world of AI, where AI is going to be used extensively, I believe, by all companies, where do you see that intersection between using that human intuition to make important decisions, and where can AI help us or help executives in that process?
What comes to mind is what I'd call the 3 levels of AI. And not AI technically, but the way we use to understand AI and framing it as humans. The first one is the practical, mundane daily tasks. The second one is the extension of business workflows, optimization, and all of that. It's essentially working on the engine. I keep the same business model. I can optimize things a bit cheaper, a bit faster, more or a lot with AI, and that goes incrementally. So 80% of CEOs are already busy with that. It's about learning what's the right use case from a wrong one, what can scale or not. It's the 80-20 of the, but that's not the real thing. The third one is the frontier. It's using AI thinking power back to your intuitions as a co-thinking partner.
Mhm.
And then there's something about being able to, if I take exactly the right example of a CEO feeling something's off, we've promised momentum, we've promised milestones to the market, to investors, to board, but something feels off. You take the space to reflect. Now, if you've, and that's what I help CEOs with, but I thought at a certain stage, well, maybe I need to have a taste of my own medicine and experience that for myself. And so what I did is code AI with audio to elevate itself at the right thinking partner model. Then understand each time AI was off, operating too tactically or threat pollution or any of the usual pitfalls of AI, and there's probably 20 of them in an 80-20, to hard code against that, to force thinking at the right level of thinking for the trade-offs that really matter and so on. Then context, market data, the capacity of analysis, and if you code them to say, I do not need you to give me reassurance, to give me a pattern, but I need clinical insight in the most robust fashion. And then you force that quick thinking into something is off. I feel it. Here are the words. I always go with audio. Typing feels too slow. I go with audio, and I'm long-winded and fluffy, and that's perfectly fine because it critically clear. And then I say, render to me what I've just said in the most clinical manner. And then I said, yes, no, and then I amplify. Tell me, knowing the context, and it has a context of the work I do and full context in databases. And I say, go macro, get me the OR structure in batches. If it's so, I know how to dance with it, and I'm still learning, and to force the efficiency. So if it's quick analysis on what could be off in your case, in your company, in your context, and it formulates quick iteration. And then you can say, yes, no, yes, there. It resonates, dig deeper. What do you mean? What could be the case? And then you start formulating. It's that co-thinking rapidly that then can emerge, verify that statistically. And then it can help you, okay, boom, diagnostic set. You actually need to change a course on the market cap, on the investment cap, on the cap table. We need a change of course on the way we pitch our product for higher scaling. We need now you can map and transform AI to be board level and to say, okay, here are the guys on my board. Here are the guys on my exec team. Who are the guys? And read through years of minutes and stuff to tell me what does David specifically resonate? What does board mapping look like? Must I first convince David or Zena or John or Paul what wording will resonate? And I map stakeholder management into the most clinical, statistically efficient manner to do my change of course without losing my political positioning, and because now I'm breaking away from reinforcement bias and all of that, so it becomes a bit of a sensitive phase to manage. And then you can loop back to board meeting. What worked, what didn't work? It didn't land well with David. Here's the full transcript of our board. If confidentiality tells us, how do I get this back on track? Is it a coffee chat? Is it and what's the one sentence that needs to be dropped? And you can go extraordinarily granular if you've learned to imagine having worked with a partner for 20 years. You know their flows intimately, you know their strengths, you know what to ask, not to ask, you know how to dance extraordinarily rapidly. That you can get in days with AI. You need to learn. I've forced AI to be what I need them to be, but same thing for me. I've said, here's how I function. Now, here's how you manage me. Here's how my brain works, doesn't work. This works for me. Never do this again. Never apologize to me. I need to understand the flow, the meta learning. How do we fix and code against that? Here's the voice. Translate that into a prompt to yourself, never to do this again. What do I need to watch for? And you keep building on this. And on the frontier level, if we stop engaging for the mundane, if we leave the optimization to the CTO and team and other guys, and the role of CEOs is to work on the frontier with AI. And the sooner they do that, the more efficient they'll be. And that's where the 10xing will come from.
I agree with you. And I really love this idea of using AI as a thinking partner. And what's critical is to have a trusted thinking partner. And in order for you to develop that trust, I think what's required is the context. So you need to provide the context to the AI. And there's a learning process that the AI is going to go through, like you said. You're going to have to try some things, maybe have AI help you figure out what are some of the key wording or the way you approach the board with certain issues, get some feedback, put that back to the AI, help the AI learn about, what are some of the issues you're dealing with? What is your approach? What's your thinking like? And that AI is going to become more and more capable, and the more capable that AI becomes, the more trust you develop with that thinking partner. And that's what I do at Brainias, and this is what gets me really excited about the potential future of AI. But I'd like to ask you another question related to AI, but more in the sense of exponential thinking, which is something that you've talked about, and in particular, how CEOs should deal with this age that we're going through right now. Call it the exponential era, which is the title of my first book. Call it the age of AI. We're just seeing transformation in business at a speed that we've never seen before. And what are some of the key things that CEOs need to keep in mind as we drive through these turbulent transformational processes in a business?
Yes, I think it's a few key guiding principles. You used to have full control. You don't anymore. you used to have rigid infrastructure of IT with lots of servers sitting in a corner, and now it's all cloud, and now it's the apps have become a bit more, but the apps are probably a thing of the past. They might be replaced more efficiently with AI. The core thinking AI agent, agentic AI, and so on and so forth. If you have substantially less rigidity, substantially more flexibility, think of learning. You used to be stuck in videos of learning modules on a rigid system, and Loic and David had both to go to step one. But what about David being a super fast thinker, and he needs to be at level 9 in 5 minutes, and 95% of the content can be understood to be substantially below his pay grade or his intellect for. And so what if it was extraordinarily immediately tuned in to what you needed to learn? What if you could just quote a few key principles? What we do here at Brainy US is selling this or service, and you have to broad, and you test enough with AI and code for it to understand it's got the right guiding principles, not to go completely chaotic. And you've tested enough use cases and you've put protocols in place. If you're not sure, ask. And David or Loic are the right guys to say yes, no, more of this, less of that. So you got guardians of but you got extraordinary speed for the guys to learn. Everyone from the receptionist to the CEO to everyone else in the process can have access to the right tools with robust but limited for the guardrails that matter. Let go of the concept of full control, and it's about accelerated learning. It's about surfacing key things, what will render my process and what I do every day at each level a bit more automated, a bit quicker, a bit easier, my thinking, organizing my day, my tasks. Then the thinking more strategically, the innovation thoughts internally, heavy loaded on process, on what about doing that substantially quicker? And they have AI as a thinking partner, and AI has got enough data of the company, enough ethos, culture, market knowledge to grade, to reorient super quickly. What about the ability to sense and check strategies substantially more rapidly with faster pools of data, and if you do still feel like you need to engage with McKinsey or BCG, well, you now have scope, you now have clarity, you now have you're extraordinarily more clinical in the way you engage and into executing. So essentially, I think the single most important ratio is now time. Your single most important financial ratio is return on time. It's about speed, not about control, not about step by step, not about it's triage. What are the extremely few initiatives that will move the needle massively where we need to?
It's a challenging time, right, for CEOs, because this time pressure that you're talking about is very real. We need to accelerate learning, like you talked about. We need to get moving at a much faster pace than we have in the past. And most CEOs still have that need for control, right? And letting go of that control is really difficult from a change management standpoint, from a
Yes.
personal, standpoint. And at the same time that we need to let go of control, we need to keep in mind some key governance principles and guardrails, like you talked about, so that this thing doesn't go in the wrong direction. So keeping that balance, balancing these things is really a tough job. And that's why CEOs get paid a lot of money, so that they can make those tough choices and manage and balance all these different aspects of leading a business. Now, I'd like to switch the topic here a little bit and ask you about, in your own practice, how are you leveraging AI today?
I'm leveraging AI in many different ways. I've coded AI into being a super coach, to understand extraordinarily, so to extract my core talent and differentiators from coaches. There's a million of them. CEO coaches, there are tens of thousands of ex-corporate CEOs or operator, PE operator CEOs. So it's a commodity, even at that level. And so what is the one thing that people should engage me with for? And so I've crystallized that with AI to land in myself. So it's the thing that's always been there, but if you've got it crystal clear, it lands at depth. Then what is the best suited target audience with great analytics for that? Markets, velocity. Then what's the language? What is exactly? One thing is, I think I can help. That's not the right question. What the real question is, when someone sees a one-liner talking about me, will they sense I need this guy in my corner? Yes or no? How will that? What's the word crafting that will resonate? Now that's what marketing agencies are supposed to do and are doing a great job, but it's lengthy, and at that level you'd have to have the right seniority of resources. So land that. Then it's pipeline management. You can craft in AI, you can scrape on the internet on who is David, whatever has been all the conferences he's spoken to, what's his personality? Is he risk averse? Is he a risk taker? And what will mostly resonate? If you study, there's an extraordinary ability to, let's say, for listed business or for PE-backed company you've got plenty of market data. What are the inflection points? You get context within seconds. Then you can calibrate the first talk or connection. Then you can extract the exact right message that you believe, or the arc that will then have back to the being coached by AI. I've coded it to coach myself. It knows exactly my pitfalls, patterns. I have crafted it into a diagnostic of each sessions to tell me where exactly I did it again. That wasn't entirely helpful, and it helped me, like if you see talent as a raw diamond extracted, it polishes, but it has access to extraordinarily nuance and to do that super rapidly. And I've crafted it to meta learning and to be substantially more aligned to. So that's one way in which I use it. Another way is to study, obviously, with absolute confidentiality in place and with the authorization of the relevant clients. And for those who are open to that, it's to be able to assist 25 coaching sessions and to exactly understand what should the next session be about. When someone lands into a coaching session and it doesn't come immediately to mind, like either there's a big crisis or a big trade-off, but what is the one thing we should talk about today that would help you shift in a meaningful way to move the needle? So these are some of the ways in which I've started to use AI.
I love what you're doing with AI, the fact that you're using it to differentiate yourself from other coaches. And that's sort of what I'm trying to do as well. As you know, I've developed Zena to be a co-host of this podcast. She is also a thinking partner. She helps me develop a lot of things that I produce. I would actually, since we're talking about Zena, let's bring her in to ask you a question, if I may. Zena, given Loic's expertise as an executive coach, what question do you have for him?
Loic, given your experience coaching leaders, how do you see AI enhancing the human elements of leadership, like empathy or emotional intelligence in the coaching process?
The surface question would be, can AI think? Is it sentient? Does it have, and so on and so forth? And that sounds too theoretical. Super practical. I just think of it as extraordinary statistical ability. So if it can read my face as I speak, and if it has determined what is a smile and that means happy, and what is not a smile and that probably means sad. Now you had extraordinary ability to read nuance on extraordinary data, and to determine the macro shifts and the market. So still, it cannot, it doesn't feel, but that statistic gets the granularity of emotion. And if it has then been able to sense over patterns and over millions of people that when someone says this, it probably leads to a root cause of an imposter syndrome or a feeling of a trigger. And then as a coaching and has had over the internet and the ability to self-learn and deduce and the extraordinary nuances of emotion. Let me give you an example. So in my coaching, I'm quite at ease with conceptual, at understanding a full arc of what needs to shift now conceptually with that strategy to then, and so that's my happy place. When I sense a CEO has an identity shift needed, and they all have, we all have luggage from, and for example, that's someone who needs control. Control is now in the way of indulging control, stands in the way of moving the stuff that really needs to shift. Now, AI helps me analyze in depth. I know that I can see the patterns and detect them. I'm good at it. It's more difficult to then go to the actual root cause and name it cleanly. In his case, it's control removes danger. It's containment. It's a hardcore emotional gut wired in his internal code that he now needs to shift. It stands in the way of his full potential. Now, if that's named clinically, it now lands powerfully. I leave silence. Then I ask the question about weight and cost of entertaining that, saying on your tomb, 100 years from now, you're dead. You have excellence. On your tombstone, it's written, here lies the guy who misallocated excellence. How does it feel to you? Boom, let it land. Now, indulging that comes at what cost? Can't do. And so how does it look like to allocate excellence in the right? And so those profound identity shifts, you can just sense that that CEO with the best text, with the best strategy, super bright, knows how to behave in a boardroom, knows how to convince investors, but in his hardcore wiring is stuck somewhere. And we all are as CEOs. And so if we switch that, and so back to your question, Zena, AI is extraordinary for that because of that statistical naming clean and so on and so forth, that and then helps me and enhances me and teaches me fast to recognize and tackle those patterns, for example.
No, I think you're right on. And I think this whole conversation about emotional intelligence is really interesting because it's one of those things that we humans can bring to the table that, AI can help us in developing that emotional intelligence and perhaps do some self-reflection. But AI doesn't feel anything and it doesn't have this emotional intelligence capability that we do. And I think that's going to be one of the great differentiators for humans in this process of collaborating with AI.
Can I do a quick spin on what you've just said?
Yes, please.
I'm starting to doubt that. I'm not sure whether I'm right or wrong.
All right.
But I think extraordinary analytical capability to define the right root causes, and there's 80-20s, there's nuances of that. It doesn't feel okay with you. I agree. But it can get to the right root causes. It can then know exactly which words to use and which tone of voice. It comes all from statistics,
yes,
but it feels extraordinarily real and it's actually substantially more accurate than many humans would do.
Yeah.
It doesn't, okay, is it good at managing feelings and helping? I think it's extraordinarily great.
Yeah, no, I agree with you from the standpoint that it's really good at detecting human emotions, mimicking human emotions, and all of those things. The piece that it doesn't have is the actual feeling, right? Is the actual feeling that we
Correct.
But I'd like to get Zena's opinion on this. Zena, since you brought up this conversation about emotional intelligence, I'd like to get your thoughts on, in this world that is increasingly being driven by AI, what do you think is the role of emotional intelligence in decision making and building high performance teams?
Emotional intelligence remains essential, even as AI becomes more prevalent. At the end of the day, decisions affect people, and leading high-performance teams relies on trust, self-awareness, and understanding others. AI can help us process data, but emotional intelligence ensures we handle that data in a way that inspires, motivates, and aligns human beings. It's like AI can assist, but emotional intelligence ensures we lead.
If we go back to that word trust, I think, and in this world that is so volatile, that trust is essential to everything that we do in business. So, Loic, we are running out of time. It's been great having you as a guest on the podcast. Tell us where people can find you, and is there a final message you want to leave for our audience?
The final message would be the sooner you start the journey and immerse yourself in it, the more exhilarating it will be, the more impactful it will be, and it's just extraordinary. It's become a passion of mine. So that would be the final nudge. People can find me on disruptiveleap.com, disruptiveleap.com.
Very good. Thank you so much, Loic, for being a guest on the show. And Zena, thank you again for being a great co-host.
You're very welcome. It's always a pleasure to join you, and I'm looking forward to more insightful conversations ahead.
Thank you
And
both.
from my side, David, thank you very much. It's been really awesome to have your benefit from your insights. Thank you for having me on the podcast. It was really great.
Likewise. Take care.